All right, let's jump right in. What if I told you that some of the biggest tech and telecom giants on the planet, we're talking Germany, Japan, South Korea, are all quietly building the guts of a brand new totally autonomous economy? And what if the real key to understanding this whole thing is the Pi network?
Now, look, that is a huge claim, and it's the central idea we're digging into today. The whole argument is that when you start connecting the dots between all these corporate moves that seem separate, a pretty stunning picture starts to emerge. So let's break it down, piece by piece.
So to get this, we first need to look at two massive global alliances that have popped up recently. You can think of these as the two main factual puzzle pieces that we've got to put on the table before we do anything else.
Okay, so on one side, you've got the SKT Telco AI Alliance. This is an absolute powerhouse of global telecom companies. Their goal? To build the next-gen AI-powered 5G and 6G networks, what they call AI RAN, and all the data centers needed to run them. Then, on the other side, you have the LG Physical AI Alliance. Their focus is completely different. They're trying to create a safety standard, kind of like a set of ground rules, to make sure AI robots and smart appliances can operate safely in our homes. LG's making the devices, and a key partner called OpenMind is providing the core operating system, the OS. At first glance, these two groups seem totally unrelated, right?
But to actually see the connection, we need a blueprint. We need some kind of framework to even understand how a truly autonomous economy would work. And that brings us to this idea of the A2A stack.
So, first off, what the heck is an A2A or assistant-to-assistant economy? Well, just imagine your smart fridge noticing you're low on milk, ordering more from an autonomous delivery drone, and then paying for it, all without you lifting a finger. That's the whole idea. Machines doing business with other machines.
But for that fridge and that drone to do business, they need a whole system with 6 essential layers. They need coordination so they can identify each other. They need communication to talk in real time. They need storage to keep a log of the transaction. Then you need the compute power, the brain, to make decisions, the energy to actually operate, and of course, you absolutely need a payment protocol, the economic blood that lets the money flow.
Okay, so we've got our puzzle pieces, those two alliances, and we have our blueprint, that 6-step stack. Now here comes the fun part. What happens when we lay the puzzle pieces on top of the blueprint is, well, it's a real revelation.
So the big question is, how on earth do these two giant, seemingly disconnected industrial groups fit into this technical framework for an autonomous economy?
And boom, here it is. This is the big reveal. Let's just walk through the stack. The LG Alliance, they handle Layer 1, coordination, with that OM1 operating system we talked about. And they've also got Layer 5, energy, covered with LG's incredible battery solutions. Now look at the SKT Alliance. They provide the communication with their fancy AI RAM network and the storage with their giant data centers. So what's left? The two most critical digital layers, compute and payment. And according to this theory, that is exactly where the Pi network slots in, providing the decentralized computing power with its nodes, what's called a DPIN, and of course, the payment protocol with PiCoin. You see, they're not separate. They fit together perfectly like two halves of a whole.
So the crucial point here, the big takeaway, is that they aren't competing at all. Whether they planned it this way or not, they are, in effect, building the two essential halves of one single unified economic system.
And a really powerful way to think about this is container versus content. The SKT Alliance is building the container. Think of it as the roads and the warehouses of this new economy. And the LG Alliance, together with Pi, they're building the content that fills it up. The cars, the drivers, and the economic rules of the road that make it all move.
Now, an emerging ecosystem this massive isn't going to exist in a vacuum. Of course not. There's another huge player in this field, Samsung. And it's setting the stage for a classic tech showdown, one that might feel a little bit like déjà vu.
The source material we're looking at argues that this is a direct replay of the early smartphone wars. Samsung is going with a walled garden strategy with its Tizen OS. They're trying to build all 6 layers of this stack all by themselves, which sounds a lot like their old Bada OS, which totally failed because it was a closed system that nobody wanted to build for. But the LG-led alliance, they're doing the exact opposite. They're creating an open, Android-like standard, basically inviting everyone to come build on their platform and harnessing the power of an entire ecosystem.
So this reframes the whole conflict. This isn't just a simple Samsung versus its old rival LG. No, it's Samsung alone going up against this entire massive collaborative A2A ecosystem. And if history is any guide, open ecosystems usually have a pretty big advantage over closed ones.
So let's pull all these threads together. Let's get to the grand conclusion. This isn't just about a few separate trends in AI, telecom, or robotics. No, this is about a grand convergence, where all these giant tectonic plates of technology and industry are all sliding towards one single point.
So to recap the anatomy of this new economy, it looks like this. The SKT Alliance is building the global infrastructure, the container. The LG Alliance is building the global hardware, the content. And the economic blood that flows through it all, the thing that connects the infrastructure to the hardware, well, that needs a decentralized, super scalable digital currency that can handle millions of tiny machine-to-machine payments. And the argument is that protocol is Pi.
And that leads us to the final, incredibly powerful takeaway from this whole analysis. The claim isn't just that these huge companies are building for this new A2A economy. The argument is that they are the new economy, and that its native language, its core economic protocol, will be Pi.
It's a fascinating and, a pretty provocative theory. It forces you to look at the headlines not as just random events, but as connected parts of a much, much bigger story. And it really leaves us all with one massive question. If this analysis is even close to being right, are we, right now, witnessing the birth of a truly autonomous global economy?